Hi, I'm Jamie Ailes, and today I'm going to be talking about an interview that I had with a coworker on his belief system. He identified with Buddhism, neo-paganism, and then discussed its application within a working therapist practice in the Midwest. We are located in Kansas. My interviewee is in his early 40s, male, heterosexual. He is Caucasian. He does have Jewish ancestry. He does not practice. Middle class. He's born and raised in Kansas. He is a licensed social worker working in recovery services, and in the second year of clinicals, working towards his clinical license. He is a very desired clinician within the organization I'm in. Kids specifically really flock to him. He's really great about non-judgment and using a lot of different tools. And through this interview, I kind of found out why. When I asked how he would describe himself in terms of his religion and spiritual path, faith, he described himself as both Buddhist and neo-pagan. It was interesting. He probably saw my face. I was like, how is that connected? His response was, these belief systems may seem at odds on the surface, but in reality, they're similar worldviews as they both hold reverence for the natural world, as well as concept of rebirth, progressive evolution, and the timelessness and mortality of pure energy. I believe this is what makes up all living beings and connects him. This is reflected in some of the research I did. His comments are typically very oriented toward the Buddhist philosophy of things. He does identify with the neo-pagan as a neo-pagan. I don't know how to spell it. I'm sorry. But he's primarily a Buddhist. So you're going to see in this slide that it's very, very focused on the Buddhist teachings. But there is a little bit of overlap there too. But so on this slide, I really wanted to look up the neo-pagan belief system. They do hold a broad religious and spiritual values that include nature-based, polytheistic, pantheistic, and animistic traditions. He finds those a lot through documentation, archaeological findings, and folklore. And if you're like me and you were not entirely sure what polytheistic means, I'm going to go through those real quick so you're not a little bit confused. Polytheistic, is the worship of more than one god. Pantheistic is where reality is identical with divinity, or that all things they're all encompassing. There's no one personal god. There's a distinct overlapping god. Like not a personal god, but something in everything. Animistic is an attribution of a soul to plants, inanimate objects, and natural phenomena. It's a belief that supernatural power that organizes and animates the universe. So there's a supernatural power, but not necessarily like the God in Christianity that we tend to revert back to. I asked him also how he came to this place in his journey, especially being born and raised in the Midwest. It's not necessarily a very dominant religion around that area. He was raised in a non-denominational Protestant Christian, and spent the first 2 decades of his life following that tradition with varying degrees of intensity. So he was saying he would go to church, mostly during childhood, and going through those stages that we've discussed in this course. But he really finally kind of just really broke away and went really far left and just was kind of on his own. He finally came to realization after battling some personal things that he really felt that that approach was not giving him the answers he needed. He did not feel like he was connected to anything. He really was lost. He was battling a lot of things in his personal life, and he was just really struggling. He started doing some martial arts and kind of learning more about the background and where some of that came from. And he just really developed and really found spiritual fulfillment through studying other things like Buddhism, I'm not really sure how that connected. It kind of went on left field, but he really found a grounding there. It really encompassed his love for nature, history, his ancestral beliefs. And he really felt that his spiritual journey, as it says, coincided with his growth as a person and the positive challenges that have come with insight, knowledge seeking, and aging. He found grounding. He found what he was looking for, and it has really helped him in his journey as a therapist as well, which we're going to go into. What about your spiritual practice that you find is the most unique and important aspect that you'd like to share? He said the use of mindfulness and acceptance that the nature of physical existence is suffering, and the root of suffering is desire. In terms of ritual or practice, my spirituality is best practiced in a natural setting, so I often make time to unplug and engage with the natural world while reflecting on my place in it. This is especially true during times of seasonal transitions, such as the solstices and equinoxes. This is reflective of, it popped into my head when we were reading Frankl's book, Man's Search of Meaning. And what he really talked a lot about spiritual freedom in that book. And it really captivated me on the topic of changing perception, when a lot of those people that I don't want to say inmates, but the people that were with him in the internment camps, at Auschwitz and all those places, they were committing suicide, and he really had to work on changing the perception of, okay, there's a reason why you're suffering, okay? You want to see this loved one. You want to hug your child. You want to kiss your wife. You want to go back to your doorstep. Well, you need to look at what you're going through as a job. Something that you need to do, fill those expectations so that you can find the end journey of that loved one, that child, that doorstep, whatever it is. And I thought this was kind of reflective of each other in a little bit of a loose term, but just kind of reflecting on what you're going through and where you're going. And I thought that was kind of impactful. And I really wanted to mention that here, that if, as Frankl said, if they didn't meet the job requirement of suffering, they would not receive their desired payment. Same thing with the Buddhism teaching of suffering. Everything comes from suffering, but we desire these other things and we're searching for these other things. So what should social workers know about this group? He said, as a social worker, I refrain from identifying my spirituality in absolute terms. I present aspects of my spiritual path to clients that are open to therapeutic practices such as meditation and mindfulness, acceptance of the present, as well as other modalities to benefit self-care and guided self-care such as yoga, visualization, guided meditation. There's a great overlap at times between Eastern thought and modern therapeutic practices. This is not to say that I push my beliefs on them, but simply offer techniques and philosophical ideas that I have found useful within my spiritual journey. Buddhism, that was reflected also in some other research, that their teachings inspire commitment to compassionate help towards all being. So, I feel like that kind of is reflective of non-judgment, and a lot of our basis practices of trauma-informed care that we're really learning about, and we're finding works. So him as a social worker, he is more concerned about overall well-being, which is reflective of his Buddhist teachings. Meditation, awareness, connectedness, they're all key aspects in therapeutic interventions, as well as these spiritual teachings. So there is a really big overlap in that. How does your current belief system affect your family or religion relationship? While it was rocky for him, it is difficult, and he does have very different beliefs. Politically, it is influenced him politically, systematically, his jobs. It's very different than what his family origin was. In this slide, I also tied in some of these symbols that he mentioned that are important to him. This first one on the left is Thor's hammer. That one is more neo-paganism symbolism for him. It represents the physical hammer. It's representative of positive masculine virtues. So maintaining healthy boundaries for self and others. The next one is the Chaos Star. It's a spoke device with 8 equidistant arrows radiating from the central point. It represents infinite possibilities. The third one is the Dharma Wheel. It represents the teachings of the Buddha and has 8 spokes that represent the Noble Eightfold Path, which is part of the foundation of traditional Buddhist thought and practice. And then the far right one, there's a lot of different depictions, obviously, but this is one is symbolizing a loving contentment in the balance of thoughts and tranquility. It also, because he's abundant, it represents abundance and gratitude, being thankful. Look at that smile. The lotus flower is also important to him, but I tied that into another slide. Living in the Midwest, there is a prevalent Protestant belief system. Has your differing belief system caused any noteworthy significant challenges within societal interactions for you? He has been called lots of nasty things: Satanist, heathen, godless. Heathen isn't so far-fetched because that's actually a term for some of the neo-paganisms, but belief systems, but they didn't say it in a positive manner. He did say that they do interact with him differently after they know fear of what they do not understand or what doesn't fit into an established narrative, he figures. But again, he doesn't worry too much about it. He just continues to be him. Buddhist teachers have collaborated with neuroscientists to study the neurological and behavioral effects of meditation. With qualitative and quantitative scientific backing, is being found that meditation can help increase self-control, compassion, insight, and altered state of consciousness. Similarly, Christians have explored the changeability of religious practices and the possible influence it could have on technological advancements. Next steps. What do you think your next step in your spiritual journey would be? That's when I asked him. He thinks he will continue to find observances and personal spiritual practices that have meaning to him. He just wants to work towards his own betterment and then to help those around him if they want it. What he thought might be getting in the way of taking that next step would be having to engage with the cultural and social mores and norms, as well as the pressure expectations they bring. Again, he's in the Midwest. Not that it's a horrible place to be, but he has a very differing belief system that's not reflective of many that he sees within his therapeutic. For me, I feel like cultural competency is extremely important, and it does not matter if it's Buddhism, neo-paganism, Catholicism, Jewish, like it does not matter. I feel like we need to know and understand a little bit about a lot of things. Not that we're experts, but we need to understand to help them as a strength in their recovery. Religion is a strength for that person. It may not be mine, and that's okay. I may not agree. That's okay, but I can help them establish in their own thoughts and beliefs. And I feel like that's only when it's applicable and appropriate, not to push things on them, but to help them when they want it. Meet them where they're at. Here's the lotus flower. For practice implications, we already see this, these teachings, mindfulness, meditation, yoga is more on the Hinduism side of things, but we already see these. We're using them. Labyrinths. There's different things that we're using, and it helps with grounding in trauma-informed care. It helps people center and think and reflect. They're priceless. I really hope you all enjoyed this presentation. So if you have questions, please let me know. Reach out. I'm hoping I covered everything. I know we have a limit of 15 minutes on these, so I'm trying to get up as much as I can. But let me get back to the lotus flower. I'm sorry about that. So to go a little bit more into this one, an increase in clinical research has shown the relationship between religion and spirituality within psychotherapy. It is necessary, as I was saying, for mental health workers to embrace these teachings. It doesn't mean that they're a Buddhist. It means that we're taking pieces of different things that help. Cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy. They all have basis in these Buddhist teachings. but they can be adapted into any religion, and they can be adapted to any thought process. It doesn't mean that you have to follow those. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and good luck to you all.